let's start with the Zelensky-Putin meeting. Oh, sorry. Freudian slip. Let's start with the Zelensky-Trump meeting. So Zelensky had a meeting with Donald Trump today. It went into, assumedly, a lot of details, but it was all in private. And so we really don't know all the stuff they talked about. We have some general ideas of stuff that they likely discussed. For example, we know that Volodymyr Zelensky has been going around and trying to tell people about his victory plan, which, from what reporting indicates, is largely consistent of, hey, we want to continue to add pressure to the Russians. The Russians have a lot of structural problems. The invasion of Kursk shows their weaknesses. If you assist us with aid in X, Y, and Z, we believe that we could, if not beat the Russians, we can get into the best negotiating position possible when negotiations come, and victory is achievable. That now, all the details of the victory plan are not being shared publicly, which is kind of, duh. I do wonder how much was discussed with Trump of the victory plan, and the reason why is because Donald Trump leaked the internal communications between Zelensky's team and him trying to set up the meeting to begin with. Donald Trump showed invasion plans of Iran to journalists that were not declassified and that he took from the White House once leaving office. He took documents and hid them in Mar-a-Lago in different locations across the building. Once he was getting discovered, he tried to shift them around before eventually his building was raided due to his improper storage and lying to the National Archives about these documents. Point is, out of all of the politicians, you can talk about Hillary's emails, you can talk about Biden's garage, out of all the politicians, Trump is not the one with the most information hygiene when it comes to keeping state secrets, well, secret. And so I wonder how much of the victory plan, especially if you're talking about like we want to strike X, Y, and Z, was actually shared with Trump versus how much was shared with Biden, who was about like 5 months left in the office. And versus Harris, because Zelensky did also meet with Harris. Now, this was as the scandal about the Pennsylvania ammunition factory was going on, as Mike Johnson was calling for the firing of the ambassador and all this nonsense was going on. So presumably, you would imagine, considering that Zelensky, according to much of the GOP, was just campaigning for Harris in Pennsylvania, you'd expect a lot more open aggression from Donald Trump. But much of this public meeting that he did after they had the private meeting, when they were talking to the press, was Trump trying to prove that Zelensky likes him, that Zelensky had a great phone call with him, that Zelensky stood up for him. And the whole time, I'm looking into Zelensky's eyes, and I haven't watched all of it. I watched clips. I'm looking into his eyes, and he looks like he looks like how I imagine, like Mr. Mittens, when he was about to go into heaven's door as a kid at age 17, the cat. It's similar to what I see in Zelensky's eyes. They're tired, they're weary, then they want to close forever. So let me show you just the 5 minutes that C-SPAN posted, and we're doing C-SPAN so nobody can be like, Dylan edited this to make Trump look extra stupid or whatever. Here is 5 minutes, unadulterated, unedited, of these two right after the meeting.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the president with us, and he's been through a lot. He's been through a tremendous amount, like probably nobody else, almost nobody else in history, if you really get right down to it. And we're gonna have.
Why does he always have to speak like this? Why immediately? Zelensky's been more than anyone else in history. Honestly speaking, while Zelensky has been targeted for assassinations by Putin's regime, he stayed in Kiev. That made him a very, very big target because his leaving would have maybe advanced the collapse of the government. Of course, he's leading a country that has been war crimed like 1,000 times over. I don't even know if that's true within Zelensky's own family. Mind you, Zelensky's family lived through the Holocaust. So, his own family has faced a lot of personal tragedy before, being a Jewish family in Europe during the Holocaust. But, I don't know, it always got to be it's either the best or the worst in every conversation. And I'm not too angry about it because he's saying, oh, you've been through a lot. It's just, why the added extra weight that isn't necessary? Just a Trumpism.
Have a discussion and see what we can come up with, but great honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much for this meeting. Five years passed.
Yeah.
So we had meeting again here in New York in September, and now there are a lot of challenges in Ukraine, United States, and of course I want to discuss with you. I think where we are together, I think we have common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped and Putin can't win, and Ukrainians have to prevail, and I want to discuss with you the details of our plan of victory.
My honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Mind you, Donald Trump has said, when asked directly on multiple occasions if the Ukraine, you can see Zelensky's advisor in the back over Trump's shoulder. I kind of want to. I should take a screenshot of that. He's planning his downfall. Yes, you're right, Trump. It was a campaign stop all along. The next one is in Nevada. No, Trump, when asked multiple times if the Ukrainians should win, his response is the fighting has to stop. So he, I don't think, has much personal investment on whether or not the Ukrainians win, lose, take back territory, join NATO. I'm biased against Trump, so I'm projecting a little bit here, but I think it's another instance of like, do for me what I can do for you. I think part of the reason why Trump hasn't completely thrown Zelensky under the bus is because of the quote unquote perfect phone call that Zelensky never lashed out about. He never said, yes, Trump tried to extort me with $400 million worth of military aid in order to get dirt on Hunter Biden. He could have done that. He could have made it like a much bigger international incident than it ended up being, but he kept his mouth shut because he understood that he didn't want to piss off the president of the United States, the one who, even though he didn't have the power to veto, was actively, unconstitutionally slowing down aid. And so he played ball. And I think Trump appreciates that to some degree, his ability to play ball with Trump. The fact that he said it was a perfect phone call and he did not come out after Trump, and he doesn't really attack Trump. He's gone after J.D. Vance a tiny bit, doesn't really attack Trump much. And so, I think that's one of the things that has kept that bridge at least intact.
Thank you very much. You have a question for the president? Anybody?
Why did you decide to meet?
I think it's me or
Both
to
of you.
both us. Okay, thank you so much. First of all, it's very important to share all the plan, all our steps, how we can strengthen Ukraine. And of course, we have to decide it now, because after November, we don't know who is. Only Americans decide who will be the president. But we understand that till November, we can't stop Putin. We have to do it. We will try on the battlefield with our heroic soldiers, but we understand it.
One thing I got to give Zelensky credit for is he hasn't changed his narrative here. He hasn't changed his messages to like, well, we just need what is the best plan for everybody and, peace and stability. No, he hasn't changed his messaging here. I do wonder how he pitched to Trump differently, because there's no way Zelensky, he's not stupid enough to talk to Trump in the same way we talked to Harris. I do wonder the differences in that meeting. Nice tie today, Mr. President. I don't know. But, he's not changing his narrative. He's not pulling any punches. He's not adding pillows to his fists. He's still holding the position that the United States should support Ukraine militarily towards victory.
After November, we have to decide, and we hope that the strength of the United States will be very strong, and we count on it. That's why I decided to meet with both candidates with all honor to them. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. President Trump, so what are your expectations about this meeting? So what I expect to hear from the President Zelensky, and what are your expectations?
Say it a little louder, please.
What are
I think we have a clip of after the meeting that we're going to play. This is before the meeting. I don't know if I made that particularly clear before.
your expectations from this meeting? What do you expect to hear from Mr.
Nothing.
President?
Look, this is a meeting, and we have a big race going on right now. I guess 37 days left, and we're leading in the polls, and so we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully it'll work out, but if it does, we're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled and get it worked out. It has to end at At some point, it has to end. He's gone through hell, and his country has gone through hell like few countries have ever, like it's happened anywhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's a terrible situation. And
Again, it's just random exaggerations for no reason. I mean, yeah, the country's gone through what do you mean? Ukraine's gone through it multiple times itself. Poland's gone through it. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania's gone through. I mean, there's a lot of countries that have gone through it by the same culprit, like within the last 100 years. Again, it's just everything needs to either be the best or the worst, or the bestest or the worstest.
And I will say I have had a great relationship. It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax. Just a Democrat.
See, I told you, dude, it's the impeachment stuff. He thinks Zelensky was enough of a homie that he hasn't completely thrown him under the bus. But I mean, if Trump's on the campaign trail saying we need to stop sending aid, we need to end it, and like, in effect, I don't know how much of a change it would have been if Zelensky was like, yeah, he tried to extort me, and he wasn't that Trump homie. Maybe he would just be more verbally aggressive. Maybe he would be more hands-on in trying to stop aid in Congress. Even though, I mean, it was the immigration deal bundle that blocked aid for like 10 months and really hurt a lot of people during the Battle of Avdiivka and otherwise, and other battles at the time.
Hoax, which we won. But one of the reasons we won it so easily is that when the president was asked, it was over a phone call with the president, and he said he could have grandstanded and played cute, but he didn't do that. He said President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. He said it loud and clear, and
he's using Zelensky to like, he's taking Zelensky and he's all those smudges on him from Scandal. He's trying to just see how many he can use them to wipe off. Like, yeah, no, Zelensky said it was a perfect phone call. I shouldn't have been impeached. Zelensky actually said January 6th was based,
impeachment hoax died right there.
January 6th was actually there with the QAnon shaman, actually.
He could have said, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I never even told you this, to be honest, but he was like a piece of steel. He said President Trump did nothing wrong. We had a very nice call. He congratulated me on.
I don't think Zelensky was very emphasizing like nothing happened bad, everything's great, everything's fine. I think it was like something simple along. It was a fine phone call. The phone call was fine, right? I think it was like the bare minimum of like keep your mouth shut.
His victory, you just won, and I remember that. He could have played cute, and he didn't play cute, and so I appreciated that. So we have a very good relationship, and I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have. Oh, I see. Yeah, but it takes two to tango, and we will have a good meeting today.
But I mean, look. It's one thing to say that you have, look, you can see Zelensky's advisor at the back looking at the floor. It's one thing to say that you have a relationship with both people and therefore can act as intermediary. But if you are the power broker, if you are the power backer for one of the parties here, Ukraine, you've got to have their back in negotiations. If you just pretend to be like some neutral third party, what you're doing is you're undercutting Ukrainian leverage. They're in a worse negotiating position, and the deal that you want to make will end up being worse. It'll end up being less secure, and you won't be able to achieve America's national security priorities. And I mean, this is not even just a Ukraine thing. You can apply this to any number of issues. It's just this is the one that Trump is like dealing with right now. If you are the power broker for one of the parties, but then say we need to stop supporting that party, and then you're going to act like you're neutral between the two, then you're undercutting one side's negotiating base.
And I think the fact that we're even together today is a very good sign, and hopefully we'll have a good victory because... I
see that chat message in chat. This conversation is incredibly awkward. I had no other way to describe this besides awkward. That's why the title of today's stream is Trump meets Zelensky, awkward. It's the only word that came to mind.
The other side wins. I don't think you're going to have victories with anything, to be honest with you. So we're going to sit down and just discuss it. And if we have a win, I think long before January 20th, before I would take the presidency, it's January 20th. But long before that, I think that we can work out something that's good for both sides. It's time. And by the way, the president knows that too. He wants to get something done. He doesn't want to do this. And so we look forward to having them meet.
Yeah, he wants to get something done, but he wouldn't agree with you. Like, if you are negotiating and hard power is what's going to give you the best position. If the Russians think, oh my gosh, if we keep fighting, we're going to lose another 100,000 guys here and another 100,000 guys there. That's how you show strength in negotiation. I'm sorry. That's how the world works. Hard power, weapons, they give you negotiating capacity. They give you the ability to pursue your interests. It's the truth of the world, okay? Very sorry. But if you undercut that, you're just putting them in a worse position. And so it's weird to, on one hand, be like using Zelensky to wipe off your scandals, but in the same breath, not be willing to say you ally with him more going into these negotiations than Putin, and that it takes two to tango. You don't want to send the like you can't expect Zelensky to be used as this rag to wipe away scandal while also backing his country. Not at all. I mean, even from Trump's own worldview. Trump's own like deal making, like you do for me, I do for you type worldview, it doesn't make sense.
I look forward to being with him. But what I said is true. He was.
Lonabach said this is that Trump is demonic for this, and especially, honestly, it's true. This is some super messed up stuff that Trump is. I mean, yeah, look, I have kind of lost a lot of my shock value at what Trump will say around this war, or what the Republican Party was willing to put up when it comes to this war. Whether it was Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about the Ukrainian government harvesting organs in order to fund the war effort, whether it was basically half of Republicans voting against Ukraine aid, tying a national security issue to a partisan political issue domestically in the United States over immigration. Even though they're disconnected, and all it did was delay aid, and the bill was basically the same when it was passed anyway, and then they uncoupled it. So it was was it just an attempt to sink aid in its entirety? I don't know. But I mean, I've lost that shock value. And I keep hearing from some people, like, it will be no different if Trump or if Biden or if Harris is president. It's all the same. And I'm like, yes, Mr. Realist, thank you very much. Look, nation states, they do, generally speaking, pursue their own national interests. That tends to be the case. But if you elect somebody who doesn't believe something is within their national interests, or frankly cares about themselves more than the national interest, then the actors at the top might engage in something like clientelism or a certain amount of corruption that's not beneficial to the state but might be beneficial to them. Look, I love IR, and I like, let's see what this state's interest versus this state's interest. But I think sometimes people oversimplify it in order to be able to neatly stick these puzzle pieces together, when sometimes the puzzle pieces are jagged and you just can't do it. You just gotta do your best.
He was a piece of steel. He gave a very honest, straight answer, and that it really essentially ended the impeachment hoax.
He was still impeached. How did it end the impeachment hoax, quote unquote, if he was still impeached immediately after? That doesn't make much sense to me. I don't know. When they said I was innocent before they arrested me, that ended it all. Okay. I think there's one for after the meeting as well. They spoke to Fox. I don't know if there's... Can we find the full press conference? We'll just look at the clip. I don't even want to.
Strongest of our soldiers, our people. Of course, it will bring us closer to the peace. We need just peace. We need just peace. It's so important to have just peace for the people, especially for the families who lost their children. It's a big tragedy.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made.
I don't know what that means. Okay, number one, Trump said he learned a lot, which, I mean, I guess if anybody sits down with him and talks to him about the war, it isn't saying like Zelensky is snorting booger sugar and sending like 1 million Abrams into destruction. That, yeah, I guess maybe explained what the association agreement was. I have no clue what learned a lot is in this context, whether he's giving them classified information or if he's just telling them like history and basic facts about the battlefield that he might not know, because I just don't think that people are giving him comprehensive policy briefings. That's not even to talk about the fact that Trump staffers have consistently talked about that it's really, really, really hard to get him to pay attention in briefings. And so what they've done is they've like colored certain letters and they underline and highlight certain super important words and they make it really short bullet points. You know, they make a clown with like a big red nose and like a horn presented in a Bozo the Clown voice. Okay, that one of those were a lie, but you get the idea. They need to get him to pay attention. So if he did pay attention, I guess he would learn something. As for like, I don't think my position has changed that we both think the war should end. That was a non-answer. If he has changed his mind on anything, he didn't express it here, but that was a non-answer. Because of course, both of them at some point want the war to end.
And it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place, and I think, I mean, right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign, and I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop, and that's a good combination. So we want to have a
wait. That this right here, if you were like 7, seems like the ingredients for peace. Wait, the Russians don't like war, and the Ukrainians don't like war. I guess like it's just a question if somebody needs to come in there and be like, guys, give peace a chance. And then, you know, peace shall descend from the heavens. But it's not a question of whether people want peace. The soldiers that I speak to, they want to go home. Of course they want to go home. They want to go see their wives and family. They want to go eat, like party and have their lives again. Because I know some guys have volunteered at the start of 2022 and they have been fighting every single day since then, with maybe a few brief weeks of leave, depending upon injuries or battle experience or, you know, their commanders giving them permission. Like I just talked to this guy who took part in the Kursk invasion, got hit, got a concussion, got to go vacation in Spain, just came back, straight back to the front, right? Why? Because they want to achieve getting Ukraine's liberation. Many of these people, their homes are in occupied territory. And so for them, they might want peace, but they also want their home back. And if you were to measure the two things, for most of them, you get to the wanting their home back is edging it out. If you ask the majority of Ukrainians whether they want peace or you should wind it down, it is true that as the war is going on, more and more Ukrainians want peace. Now I think it's something maybe like it's the closest it's been in the polling. But if you clarify further, it's like, okay, so do we give up Mariupol? Then the polling is clear. Absolutely not. No. Not only because they don't want to give up their homes, but they don't even think that will stop Russian aggression. They think it would reward it, that the Russian public would think, oh, so we won. So this was a good idea. Invading Ukraine was the right thing to do because we won the war. We got all this land. We got this. We got that. I guess all we need to do if we want to take the rest of the Donbass, or depending upon Trump not making the Ukrainians give up Kramatorsk, because the Russians still say that that's a red line, that they need to get all the areas that they announced annexations of, which includes Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. That's a lot of people. No way they negotiate Zaporizhia. Trump would have to be a next level of brain dead to negotiate away Kherson and Zaporizhia. But I mean, he's the oldest nominee in American history, and his deal making before has been legendary.
fair deal for everybody.
Let me see if I can find what Trump said about his deal, because when they ask questions like, "Hey Trump, have you changed your mind about how this war should end?" I don't even know what that means, because what is Trump's plan on how the war should end? Yeah, let me find the clip. Let me find you the clip recently where he's at, like, I think he's doing a rally or he's doing a press conference, and a journalist directly asked, like, okay, you know, the Israeli prime minister has tried this, all these other leaders have tried this. What's your plan? And let me see if I can find it.
What do you envision as fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I mean, I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has
Well, what do you mean? What do you envision as fair? Oh, it's too early to say that. I have my own ideas. Wait, you have an idea? Then say the idea. What is fair? What is fair? It'd be one thing for Trump to say something like fair is not always possible, okay? You know, there might even be some wisdom in that answer, and you would be able to pivot in a better way. But just saying like, oh, I have ideas, but it's too early to say. Well, no, just say your ideas.
His own ideas, but has to be fair.
This war shouldn't be started, and I think that the problem that Putin killed so many people, and of course we need to do everything to pressure him to stop this war, and he's on our territory. That is the most important to understand. He's on our territory, and how to stop the war, to pressure him as we can, as we can. We have to do it.
And do you think the U.S. is the best?
The U.S. is the leader. U.S. is the leader of support. U.S. is the leader in the world. And
reminder: Trump has said multiple times that the United States has sent over $300 billion in aid. If that was the case, mind you, a lot of the problems we see out here would just not be possible for that amount of aid. They have not sent $300 billion. They've sent. If you're being bold and you're taking the vehicles at face value, price evaluations during their original construction, which is being too kind, because if something's made in 1960, pretending it still has the same value in 2024 is silly. But if you do that, you might be able to get half, not the $300 billion that Trump says.
And of course,
I wonder if Zelensky had told him, like, hey, technically, the Europeans have given more. Honestly, though, that might not be the right approach. Fact-checking Trump in a meeting is probably not the best approach. The best way to do it is to make it seem like the fact check was his own idea the whole time.
we value the support of the United States. We're thankful to the United States, the people of America. And of course, we understand that United States can be the leader through any negotiation. You know that we have the Peace Summit, and we want to organize the second one, and we count on this support.
I know you're both in a rush. Last question. Will there be another meeting in the near future between you?
Could very well happen, but I think the president said it the best. This is a war that should have never happened. It should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened. It's a shame, but this is a war that should have never happened, and we'll get it solved.
Mind you, what Trump's means here, as he said a million other times, is that if he was president, it wouldn't have happened. He's never expanded on that, because on one hand, he's like, we don't need World War III, the world will end, and his children say, like, repeat that, they'll release columns on the Hill. But then you're like, oh, so you okay, so you don't want that. So how would you stop the war? And like, what I hear from his supporters, because he won't answer the fucking question, is like, he'll be tough. And I'm like, what is he gonna do? Like, threaten to nuke the Russians? Is he gonna threaten to put American troops on the ground? You're gonna send your cousin to Donetsk to fight the Russians outside of Chasiv Yar? No, he would not do that. Trump would not do that. So what would he have done differently? Would he have just offered up some Ukrainian land? Would he have said when the Russians told him to demilitarize that you should demilitarize? And how would that be nothing else than, okay, you've avoided the war and instead achieved Ukraine's surrender. So I have nothing to work off of, so all I can do is make assumptions. And it's not like people have not tried to get it out of him. Like I said before, here is an example, I found it, of somebody trying to get Trump to answer, how to get a peace deal. Like, hey, what are we going to do to get a peace deal? You talk about the peace deal. You said you're going to get it in 24 hours. Nobody believes you. How are you going to do it?
I believe I will be able to make a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky quite quickly.
But what does that look like? What does that look like? What does that?
I don't want to tell you what that looks like.
I don't want to tell you. He has a concept of a peace plan. The concept of peace. My goodness.
It's a complicated puzzle, very complicated puzzle, but we'll get it solved, and people get on with their lives. Too many people dead. Too many beautiful cities. I've seen those cities. They're so beautiful, and they, I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible.
You have to come, by the way, to see our city.
I will.
That's another thing. Trump says, oh, beautiful cities, beautiful cities. Biden's been to Ukraine. Why hasn't Trump been to Ukraine? If he wants to be the big deal maker, go there. Speak to the people who are actually going to have to deal with the peace. Because if you negotiate a peace deal, I'm sorry to say this, okay? The Ukrainian people are, generally speaking, not docile, okay? If there's anything I've learned here, is the Ukrainian people are not much of, like, not easy to push over. The Ukrainian government at the time had to learn that in 2014. People learned it during the Orange Revolution, and people learned it again in 2022. So if Zelensky is forced to make a deal where he goes by Russian red lines, Russian demands, Trump gets rolled, and he's telling Zelensky, we're not going to send you any more aid. The Russians demanded Kramatorsk, Slovansk, and Kherson and give it up. I was able to keep Zaporizhia. Congratulations, I'm such a hero. And Zelensky actually abides by that. I will not discount the chance, and I've said this way at the start of the war too, that the Ukrainians just don't accept it and they tear down the government. It's not like they haven't done it before. Hell, they've done it within the last decade.
It's a beautiful country, beautiful weather, beautiful everything, but we have to get this over with.
Yeah.
But it's a war, and the president agrees this is a war that should have never happened. Okay? Thank you very much.
so much.
And that's that. Awkward is one way to describe it. Brr. Do. How's chat doing?